What's up, and welcome to the Wilbur and Gold Show. I'm your host, Will Dalton, a.k.a. Wilbur and Gold, and I hope you've had a great weekend. It's Monday. It is October the 5th, and I just have to say this. I got a lot I'm thinking about this morning. I'm feeling great. Hope you are. Hope you had a great weekend worth of some football. I hope you're feeling good this Monday morning, ready to get the week started off right, because when it's Monday, a lot of people hate Mondays, but when you learn to love Mondays because you just love your process and you love what you do so much, Mondays are like the best because it's time to go on the offense. It's time to win. It's time to lose, because when you lose, you learn shit and you learn lessons and you get better. And people who love losing actually get ahead. And I know I'm like coming in full steam right now, but I'm so pumped right now. Like when you love losing, you're kind of actually ahead of the rest, because most people are afraid of losing, so they actually go on the defense and they don't, take as much action because they're afraid of what people are going to think about their loss. But if you don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about your loss and you actually understand it's there to teach you, game over. So now that we got that little cup of coffee for you out of the way this Monday morning, there's literally, other than how great I'm feeling, there was no better part of starting this week than watching the Dallas Cowboys lose to the Cleveland Browns, because I've had this thesis in my head for a long time. And yesterday I finally put it out into the universe when I tweeted about it, because, we saw, it was a shootout, Cowboys Browns, they were in Dallas yesterday. I don't remember the final score. It was like 40, mid 40s to 39, I think, something 45, 30, I don't know, something like that. It was a shootout. The Cowboys ended up winning it. Dak Prescott played great. The the Browns as a whole played great. Like they played yesterday how they actually look on paper. They actually played that way yesterday. We're not used to seeing that. But my thesis was this, and yesterday's win by the Browns proved that, is that the Dallas Cowboys, for the last 25 years since they've actually been relevant, even though they're supposed to go to the Super Bowl every year, but yet somehow they barely make the playoffs. Anywho, the Dallas Cowboys are literally just a shinier version of the Cleveland Browns. Chaotic, a shit show, delusional fan base, although the Cowboys are much more delusional fan base than the Browns. Decades and decades of never winning anything could tend to, get to you a little bit. Just kidding. Don't want to throw any shade at the Browns fans. I love the Browns. I love the Browns fans' energy. They just, I don't know. So, they haven't won very much, but yet, like, they just, I don't know. They got a good energy about them, and I feel like they're actually a really, really good fan base. Not completely delusional like the Dallas Cowboys. But back to my point. The Cowboys are literally a shinier, sparkly version of the Cleveland Browns. As far as a franchise, they haven't won anything meaningful in 25 years. Their organization is just a shit show. They've got all the talent in the world, by the way, and this is more of a reflection. A little tongue twister there. It's more of a reflection for the Browns over the last handful of years, when they got Baker, they got OBJ, they got Jarvis Landry, they got Myles Garrett on the defensive side. They've got Super Bowl caliber talent, and the Cowboys do. And that's the point here. The Cowboys have Super Bowl level talent, and yet have barely even any playoff runs to show for it. So to me, yesterday really just put the staple in for me that the Cowboys are just a shinier version of the Cleveland Browns. So that's my opening statement. That felt really good to get off my chest. I got a funny feeling a lot of you who aren't Cowboys or Browns fans will agree with that. Because it's just the truth. I mean, the level of dysfunction the Cowboys have had as a franchise, it's like, it is unmatched. Now the Bengals, they're in that category as well, and I'm hoping Joe Burrow. My thesis actually on Joe Burrow, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield, and I'm rooting for the Browns to do well. I have been since Baker got there, because one, I like the underdog. I'd like to see it I always enjoy it. It's very refreshing to me when a team that has gone decades and decades and decades without winning anything, without even being relevant, not even, I mean, you can't forget making the playoffs. You're so irrelevant that you can't even get like a prime time. Like you never see them on TV. That's how irrelevant they are. And you're seeing it now with the Padres and the MLB. You saw it in 2016 and, when LeBron came back to Cleveland with the Cavs. You're seeing it now with the Browns. You're seeing it, hopefully, with the Bengals. I always like to see the underdog do well. The Cleveland Indians, the Chicago Cubs a few years ago, when they faced off in the World Series. I like seeing that. It's cool because it's like sometimes when you go so long like that where you haven't made the playoffs, you're really not even relevant. Like your games aren't even on TV hardly. Sometimes you almost have to remind you have to remind yourself, oh yeah, they're a franchise. I forgot they even existed. Like that, it's cool to me to see teams like that do well. So, but no, like I want to see Baker and the Browns do well, and I feel the same way about Joe Burrow and the Bengals. However, my thesis on that is this. I'm not sold on the Baker and the Browns right now. I mean, even after yesterday, I'm not sold. Like I had a lot of confidence in them initially when, they drafted Baker, they got OBJ. I had a lot of confidence in that. I thought there's just no way they can screw this up. But yet they've proven to be a little bit overrated. We'll see how they play out this year. But I mean, over the last 2 years when they were really hyped up, especially last year, and I actually took the cake on that one, I was right in there hyping them up and, buying into that. They really don't have anything to show for it, and they were actually kind of underwhelming to a degree. So I actually think that Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to end up being what Baker Mayfield and the Browns were supposed to be. Joe Burrow hyped up, won a national championship. Baker Mayfield hyped up, won a Heisman, almost won a national championship, didn't quite get there. Lost to Georgia in the semis, I believe. But, Browns have good receivers, OBJ, Jarvis Landry. They've got weapons, got a pretty solid defense. The Bengals, again, not the type of weapons, obviously, that the Browns have, but in their own way, considering that this is the first year of Joe Burrow and this is the first year that they've actually got, a little razzle-dazzle to him, so to speak, a little splash. After getting Joe Burrow, they got AJ Green, they got T. Higgins, so they've got some stuff to work with. I don't remember who their running back is. I know their O-line is garbage. That is the only thing, and that's a lot of people's reasoning for why Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they're not going to win many games. I can agree with that. They've been competitive though, and they got their first win yesterday. But a lot of people's concern about how Joe Burrow is going to end up doing this year for his rookie season is, partly how bad that O-line is for Cincinnati. But man, I mean, Joe Burrow has looked good. Like he's looked like a quarterback. Like he's got that swag, that swag that he had at LSU last year and that he took all the way through the national championship to win it all and the Heisman as well. It hasn't gone anywhere. A lot of people were worried that he wasn't going to be able to carry that over to the pro game, and he was just, he wasn't going to have that type of sparkle. He's still got it, and he's going to have it, and that's why I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are actually going to end up being, because they're in the conversation with the Browns as really dysfunctional franchises. The Bengals are actually, I think they're going to be the ones to actually to leap over the Browns and end up doing and living up to the hype of what the Browns and Baker Mayfield were supposed to do these last couple of years. So now I want to get into some NBA because obviously the finals are going on. Lakers Heat. Lakers lost last night in Game 3, so now the series is 2-1. Lakers still up. I think Game 4 is tomorrow night, I believe. I don't think they're doing back-to-backs in the finals. I got a few things on my mind about Lakers Heat. So just straight up front, obviously the Lakers blasted the Heat game one and not as much in game two, but over the first two games, the Lakers just completely outmatched the Heat. It was really evident in game one when they ended up winning by about 20. They were up by about 30 in the third quarter, and that's when I turned it off and went to bed because I was like, okay, well, I see how this is going to go. So I got to thinking, I had a feeling going into the series, I never really put a stake in the ground, but my thesis was that the Lakers would probably win in 5. I didn't think they would sweep because, similar to the Nuggets, and this was kind of my whole thing, the Nuggets were great. They are great. They upset the Clippers. They came in, but I did not think they had enough to go up against AD, LeBron, and the Lakers and pull that off. I just didn't. Similarly, the Heat did something very similar in the East. They didn't run through the East, but they surprised everybody in the East, made it to the finals. They're a great young team. They've got a bright future ahead with Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, and we'll see if Jimmy Butler sticks around to really build something there. I hope he does. I like Jimmy Butler as a player, but same thing. Hot team, look great, are great, but I didn't think they had enough to go up against the Lakers, LeBron, AD, and pull that type of thing off. I just didn't. I still don't. So I thought that the Lakers would probably win it in 5, maybe 6. After game one, I changed that and thought they're definitely winning it in 5. There's no way it goes 6. However, I will say this. I didn't realize just how banged up the Heat were. Bam Adebayo, Goran Dragic. I didn't realize how banged up they actually were because, again, I didn't watch the full game that night, game one. Really only caught the third quarter. So I didn't realize how banged up they were. And had I known that, I probably would have said, and I did say this after saying that they would go in 5, Lakers would win in 5, is that if Bam doesn't come back, I don't know. I haven't heard 100%. I don't think Goran Dragic is coming back, but Bam obviously hasn't been back yet. He may still come back. But I started thinking that if Bam doesn't come back, this is going to be a sweep. 4-0, Lakers are going to sweep it. And then last night, the Heat took game 3. So my original take was if, in fact, the Lakers win out, and they win in 5, I thought that the Heat would take 1. And then when I found out how banged up they were, I thought, okay, they're going to sweep. I was wrong on that point, but my original, thesis after game 1, that the Heat would probably get 1. I was right about that just because, and obviously the Lakers have won every series in 5. I don't know. I thought that the Lakers may have one game where they got a little lackadaisical from being up like they are. Maybe underestimating the Heat just a little, coasting a little too much. And the Heat, to their credit, are the type of team that if you do that, they're going to make you regret it. And they did make the Lakers regret it. So yeah, that was why that was kind of what I thought would happen if the Lakers do end up winning in 5, is that the Heat would, get that one game where the Lakers were kind of sleeping, and they did last night. So that series is 2-1 Lakers. The other thing that I wanted to say about that is this, because this is kind of going on around the media today, because go figure, because any type of thing they can make a story out of about LeBron, they're going to do it. So LeBron last night walked off the court with like 10 seconds left. The ball was dead at the time. They were getting ready. They were getting ready to, reset the clock and play out the rest of the remaining 10 seconds of the game. And LeBron walked off prematurely, walked off the court, kind of stood there in front of the locker room for a few seconds, watching what's going on the court, and then just proceeds to walk back to the locker room and head straight out. And a lot of people are talking about how that was unsportsmanlike. A lot of people are speculating, like, is that a big deal? Because, of course, that's anytime anything happens, is it a big deal? It was unsportsmanlike? Was it nothing? Listen, my take and opinion on that is this, and it's just my opinion, so whatever. Listen, LeBron, and if you know and have watched him closely, as I have, like, like, LeBron is, when it comes to the playoffs and especially the finals, because, I mean, he's in it every year except last year, basically, that he's been in his prime, as he now approaches the end part of his prime. But I think he's still slightly in it, clearly, because he finished second in the MVP votes in his 17th year. LeBron takes it very seriously in the finals, and he doesn't want to lose any games. He wants to sweep if he can. And I think it's a mixture of things. I think he's just very competitive. Like, and not only that, I mean, a lot of people, and this is kind of on the unsportsmanlike part of it, is that the game was over. Like, I get it. You need a good sport. The game was over. What more did you want him to do? Because there's a couple things in play here. One, I actually heard through the grapevines, I didn't know this at the time, but actually the clock went to double zeros when LeBron was walking off the court. It went to double zeros. So I assume he saw that and just, because, I mean, if you've ever watched LeBron in a finals game, usually when he loses, like I remember one specifically, when he was with the Cavs and Kyrie was still there, they lost, and this is just observation, they lost, and as the buzzer was about to sound, him and Kyrie were already headed towards the locker room entrance. It's done. It's over. They're thinking about the next game. They're ready to flush this one, learn from it, but flush it and move on to the next game and keep going. That is how LeBron approaches the finals, and that's how the greatest of anything, whatever it is you do, the greatest in any field, that's how they approach it. They learn what they need to learn, but they're ready to move on to the next play, because that's part of why they're so great, is because they don't dwell in their loss. They move on and get ready to attack in the next round. And that is what LeBron has done every time he has lost in the finals, as he moves on to the next game and he gets out. Like, this wasn't something new. He's ready to go to the next game. That's how mentally focused, that's the type of player he is. We've seen it over and over. And so apparently the clock hit double zero, and then they had to reset it. And clearly LeBron didn't know that. So yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's going to get blown out of proportion today. It already is, from what I've seen. And to each their own. I mean, there is no right across the board. I mean, if you think it was unsportsmanlike, I mean, that's fine. I respect that. I don't think, my mind doesn't go to that. I go to because I get it, because as an athlete, like a former athlete, and now I play a lot of tennis, like, when you lose a round or a game or a match, you need to take what you can, learn from the loss, because that's actually what it's there to do, is to teach you. And you got to move on. So that's kind of where my mind goes to when I saw him walk off the court. And because the clocks were already at double zeros and they had to reset it, and I guess LeBron just didn't know that. That's a factor as well. So, yeah, so that's that. That's pretty much all I had today. So, yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday. And I'll see you tomorrow. This has been the Wilbur and Gold Show.